In November 2024, a congressional document entered the public record describing a classified program called Immaculate Constellation. Inside that filing, an account of a U.S. Air Force F-22, the most capable air superiority fighter ever built, that broke trajectory and attempted evasion. 3 to 6 UAPs intercepted it. Boxed it in. Held it there. The craft demonstrating that capability left no exhaust. Produced no sonic signature. Executed maneuvers that would liquefy a human pilot under conventional physics. For 80 years, the default explanation for objects like this has been extraterrestrial. Visitors from another star system, presumably more advanced, presumably curious. 3 credentialed researchers, a CIA-linked quantum physicist, a professor of biological anthropology, and the astronomer whose work shaped modern UAP investigation, have independently converged on a different conclusion. The beings aren't from another planet. They're from another point on the same timeline we're currently occupying. The physics permits it. The biology supports it. The behavioral pattern, 80 years of observation without contact, makes complete sense under exactly one framework. Here is the case. Dr. Hal Puthoff spent decades as a CIA-linked physicist operating at the intersection of classified research and theoretical physics. He directed the government's remote viewing program. He advised AATIP, the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. In 2022, he published a formal paper in the Journal of Cosmology titled Ultra-Terrestrial Models, outlining several serious candidate frameworks for the intelligence behind UAP. One of those frameworks, the time traveler hypothesis. Puthoff's framing was precise. He didn't present it as speculation. He presented it as a model requiring falsification. His argument: at least some non-human intelligences interacting with the current human population may not originate from another star. They may originate from a later position on Earth's own temporal continuum, future humans, or their technological proxies, operating in our present. The physics doesn't prohibit this. General relativity permits closed time-like curves, mathematical solutions to Einstein's field equations that describe paths through spacetime looping back on themselves. The same framework that governs the Alcubierre warp drive, a metric manipulation approach to apparent faster-than-light travel, also generates closed time-like curves under specific geometric configurations. A 2024 paper in Physical Review Letters presented a modified rotating Alcubierre spacetime explicitly shown to permit closed time-like curves, temporal displacement, as a byproduct of controlled metric manipulation. The engineering barrier is energy density. The physics is resolved. Puthoff's position isn't that time travel is confirmed. It's that a civilization with several 100,000 years of additional technological development beyond our current level would face no known physical law preventing it, and that the UAP kinematic profile is precisely what localized space-time metric manipulation would produce. Dr. Michael Masters holds a PhD in anthropology from Ohio State and teaches biological anthropology at Montana Technological University. His 2019 book, Identified Flying Objects, published through an academic press and reviewed in the American Philosophical Association's Journal, makes the evolutionary case. Every documented description of UAP occupants across 80 years of encounter reports converges on the same morphology: enlarged cranium, reduced jaw structure, atrophied musculature, large forward-facing eyes, small or absent external ears, diminished nose structure. Masters mapped that profile against the documented trajectory of human evolutionary change. Cranial capacity has increased consistently across the hominin lineage for 3 million years. The jaw has reduced progressively as tool use eliminated the selection pressure for powerful dentition. Musculature has declined as physical labor requirements dropped. Visual processing regions of the brain have expanded relative to other sensory systems. Every single anatomical feature described in UAP encounter reports is the direction human biology is already moving, not convergent evolution toward a similar form from a different starting point. The same trajectory, extended forward. Masters' conclusion: the described morphology isn't alien. It's human, projected several 100,000 years along the evolutionary arc already underway. The beings people have been calling extraterrestrials for 8 decades match what a biological anthropologist would predict future humans to look like more closely than any proposed extraterrestrial life form. A CIA physicist lists time travel as a serious candidate framework. An evolutionary biologist shows the described anatomy matches the human trajectory precisely. A third researcher spent 50 years documenting why the behavior pattern only makes sense under one specific model. Subscribe. Things that shouldn't exist follows the evidence, not the consensus. Jacques Vallée is an astronomer, computer scientist, and venture capitalist who has been formally investigating UAP since the 1960s. Steven Spielberg modeled the character Lacombe in Close Encounters of the Third Kind directly on him. Vallée's central argument spans 5 decades of documented cases. The extraterrestrial hypothesis doesn't fit the data. Not because the objects aren't real. He's documented too many credible cases to dismiss the phenomenon. Because the behavioral signature is wrong for interstellar visitors. A civilization traveling from another star system to make contact would make contact. The distances involved, measured in light years, requiring either generational ships or physics-breaking propulsion, imply an investment of resources and intent that doesn't culminate in 80 years of observation without communication. What the documented record actually shows: objects appear on military sensors they demonstrably have the capability to evade. They observe. They maneuver when approached. They leave. Occasionally a crew member is seen at distance. No sustained communication. No technology transfer. No landing on the White House lawn. Vallée's description of this pattern: it resembles a research program operating under strict non-interference protocols more than any model of first contact. Under the time traveler hypothesis, that behavior becomes not only explicable, but mandatory. A research program studying its own civilization's past, specifically the technological transition period humanity is currently navigating, cannot contaminate the timeline it's examining without risking the existence of the researchers themselves. Non-interference isn't philosophical. It's existential methodology. The one behavioral anomaly that has never fit the extraterrestrial model fits the temporal research model with zero modification. A congressional document confirmed in 2024 that UAPs intercepted and held an F-22, executing maneuvers no known physics permits through conventional propulsion. The Alcubierre metric manipulation framework fully explains the kinematic profile, and peer-reviewed physics in 2024 confirmed that framework also permits temporal displacement. A CIA-linked physicist published a formal academic paper listing the time traveler hypothesis as a serious candidate model requiring scientific investigation, not dismissal. A biological anthropologist mapped 80 years of encounter descriptions against the documented trajectory of human evolutionary change and found the morphology matches the projected endpoint of that arc more precisely than any extraterrestrial candidate. An astronomer with 50 years of documented casework concluded the behavioral pattern: observation without contact, evasion without aggression, presence without communication, matches a temporal research program operating under non-interference protocols and matches nothing else. 4 independent lines of evidence. 1 conclusion: the beings people have been calling aliens since 1947 may already be in every history book ever written. They're just listed under a different species name. Drop a comment. Does the evolutionary morphology argument close the case for you? Or does the non-human biologics testimony from Grush create a contradiction you can't resolve? Because that single data point is the one this framework hasn't fully answered. Next week on Things That Shouldn't Exist, the Voynich manuscript. A 15th century illustrated book in an undeciphered language whose botanical illustrations don't match any species on Earth. A 2026 computational analysis just identified grammatical structures making the hoax hypothesis mathematically untenable. Here's what it found. Subscribe. I'll see you there.